I never knew Uncle Alistair. Never met him. Never heard my parents speak of him, not even in whispers. So when the letter came, formal, yellowed, and smelling faintly of smoke, declaring I was the sole heir to Blackwood Manor, I thought it was a joke, some cruel clerical error. But the deed was real. His signature was inked at the bottom. And so, out of equal parts curiosity and obligation, I came. It was just after 9 when I arrived. The sky was ink black, heavy with unmoving clouds, and a mean wind twisted through the surrounding trees like it was warning me to turn back. Blackwood Manor loomed ahead, wrapped in shadow, its silhouette hunched like an old beast waiting to exhale. The gravel cracked beneath my tires as I pulled up. My headlights cut through the mist, catching on the massive oak doors and the cracked stained glass windows above them. I stepped out, boots crunching on gravel, and for a moment, I thought I saw a shape move behind the glass, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared. I held the iron key tight in my hand as I approached. The key was ice cold despite the warm leather of my glove. The lock turned with a groan, and I pushed open the door. The hinges shrieked in protest, the sound cutting through the silence like a scream underwater. Inside, the air was stale, clogged with dust and old memories. My flashlight barely pierced the gloom, but moonlight bled through the cracked stained glass, staining the floor with veins of muted color. Dust floated in the air like ash. Every breath felt borrowed. The foyer opened into a wide expanse of black and white tile, cracked in places, slick with time. Portraits stared down at me from the walls, stern, sunken eyes painted centuries ago, now warped by shadow and age. The way they watched, it didn't feel like art. It felt expectant. My boots echoed sharply on the tiles. The house answered with a silence too thick to be natural. Then, the chandelier above me, a once beautiful crystal fixture now dulled with grime, flickered to life. Just for a second. Just long enough to cast dancing, twisting shadows across the walls. It snapped off with a soft click. I stopped moving. I was certain, absolutely certain, I'd just heard a sigh, faint, feminine, and from upstairs. I wanted to call out, but the sound caught in my throat. Instead, I turned slowly, letting the flashlight scan the walls. Every corner looked darker than it should. Every painting felt closer. I shook it off and stepped forward again, one cautious foot in front of the other. I wasn't here to be scared. I was here to sign papers, clear dust, and maybe, just maybe, sell the place. That was all. But in my gut, something twisted. Something told me I'd made a mistake. As I passed beneath the chandelier and headed deeper into the manor, the heavy front door groaned gently behind me, and then closed itself. The latch clicked shut. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. Whatever this place was, whatever secrets it held, I had already crossed the threshold. The flashlight in my hand feels heavier with every step. Maybe it's the weight of the air, or the way the darkness here doesn't retreat like it should. It clings, fights back, as if the manor wants to stay hidden. I move through the halls like I'm trespassing through someone's dream, one that long ago soured into a nightmare. The parlor is the first room I find. Its heavy double doors groan open with effort, revealing a scene that feels trapped in time. White sheets drape every piece of furniture like forgotten ghosts. The wallpaper peels in long curls, stained yellow with age. A grandfather clock towers in the corner, its brass pendulum still, frozen at midnight. It ticks. Not at all. The silence is thick and full of listening. I cross the room slowly, feeling the beam of my flashlight sweep across time-worn bookshelves and moth-eaten curtains. I tug at one of the sheets. Beneath it, a velvet armchair sits stiff and crumbling, facing an empty fireplace. I'm starting to regret coming alone. Just as the thought forms, the silence cracks. A thump. Loud. From above. I freeze mid-step, blood pounding in my ears. The sound wasn't accidental. Not something falling. It was deliberate. I swallow hard and whisper, "Hello?" My voice barely leaves my throat, but the room answers with a perfect echo. No variation, no delay. Just the hollow mockery of my own fear bouncing back at me. I backtrack into the hallway, scanning upward toward the ceiling, as if I might see through the layers of old floorboards to whatever or whoever is moving above me. The portraits along the walls catch my eye. I hadn't noticed them before. Dozens of them, arranged in neat symmetrical lines. Men in stiff collars, women in frilled dresses, children staring forward with expressions too still to be innocent. Their painted eyes follow me no matter where I move. I test it. Step left. Their gaze follows. I step right. Still watching. It feels like I'm not alone. Like I never was. I lift the flashlight to one of the paintings. A woman with deep-set eyes and lips too tightly pressed to seem kind. The moment the beam touches her, something shifts. It's subtle, but real. A trick of the light, I try to convince myself. Yet her expression seems different. Another sound. This time a soft creak from upstairs, like someone pacing. Slowly, deliberately. The same sound I heard when I first entered. I glance behind me. The hallway stretches long and dark, lined with shut doors, each one closed tightly, as if something is waiting behind them. My flashlight begins to flicker, just for a second, long enough for my heart to skip. I don't know why I'm still moving forward. Curiosity, stubbornness, or the need to prove this place wrong, prove that the fear is just in my head. I reach the staircase and place a hand on the banister. It's cold to the touch, like stone left out in the winter air. The wood creaks beneath me as I start up, and every step feels louder than it should. Behind me, the portraits still watch in silence. At the top, the hallway stretches out again. Even more doors. Even darker. I walk slowly, each one shut and looming on either side like sentinels. My breath is shallow, and I keep glancing over my shoulder. And then, I see it. One door, slightly open. Just enough to let the thinnest thread of sound slip through. It's a lullaby. Faint, delicate, and drifting like a memory down the hall. The kind of song you'd hear in a nursery. The kind that's not supposed to play by itself. I stand still for a moment, flashlight trembling in my grip, staring at that half-open door. The lullaby continues, plinking out a gentle, repeating melody. It's oddly soothing, and utterly wrong. I want to turn back. I should turn back. But instead, I move toward the door, and the music keeps playing. The lullaby grows louder as I near the door. That soft, tinkling melody, familiar in a way I can't place, floats through the crack like a whisper from another time. The door itself is old, its paint blistered and curling, the brass knob dulled by age. I hesitate, hand trembling just above it, then push it open slowly. The room beyond is cloaked in shadows and moonlight. It's a nursery. I can tell by the faint shapes. A small crib, a rocking horse, faded wallpaper with a childlike pattern of animals now peeling at the edges. But what holds my attention is the carousel. It sits in the center of the room, glowing faintly. The toy carousel spins lazily, casting long flickering shadows that crawl up the walls. The lullaby plinks from it with eerie clarity, each note too perfect, too sharp. I step in. The door creaks shut behind me with a click. My flashlight cuts across the room, catching glimpses of the old toys scattered on the floor, stuffed animals whose button eyes are missing, alphabet blocks that spell nothing at all, and children's drawings curling on the walls. Crayoned figures smile with gaping mouths, standing next to stick figure versions of adults whose faces are blacked out entirely. The rocking horse begins to move. It sways gently, slowly, as if a child just hopped off. The carousel slows. One final chime. Then silence. And in that silence, I hear breathing. Not mine. It's quiet, shallow, and coming from behind me. I whip around. Nothing. Just my own pale reflection staring back from a mirror nailed to the far wall. My breath fogs the glass, my heart pounding in my chest. Then I see it. A handprint. Small. Dusty. Smudged onto the window pane beside the mirror. Then another. On the mirror itself. Right behind my reflection. My breath hitches. I step backward, eyes locked on the mirror. My own reflection mirrors every motion, every tremble, except the eyes. They're wider. Too wide. Frozen in fear. Behind her, behind me, a figure starts to form in the mirror. It's faint at first. A blur. A shape rising out of the dark. A woman. Gaunt. Dripping in an old-fashioned dress that clings to her like wet cloth. Her head tilts slightly, hair hanging down like seaweed, her face obscured by shadow. She stands impossibly close to my reflection. Too close. I spin around, flashlight raised. There's no one there. Just the still, dust-choked nursery. I turn back to the mirror. She's closer now. Her skeletal hand reaching for my shoulder in the glass. My breath clouds the surface as I stare. Frozen. Then I feel it. A breath. Not mine. Ice cold, brushing the back of my neck. The mirror woman's fingers nearly touching my reflection's skin. I stagger back, nearly tripping over the rocking horse. The carousel jolts violently to life behind me. The lullaby distorted now, off-key and warped, playing too fast. I don't look back. I run. I don't remember grabbing the doorknob. I don't remember opening it. All I remember is the rush of cold air as I flee down the hallway, heart threatening to burst from my chest. But even in my panic, I know one thing for certain. The nursery isn't empty. It never was. I don't remember screaming, but my throat burns. I stumble backward into the nursery's corner, flashlight trembling in my hand, heart jackhammering against my ribs. The air feels colder, like I've stepped into a freezer, and my breath curls in front of me in ghostly puffs. The lullaby stopped when I ran, but now the carousel clicks once, then again, and starts spinning. Faster. The melody returns, but it's changed, twisted, no longer soft and childlike. It's warped, each note sharper, more discordant, like the music box is struggling to remember the tune. I press myself against the wall, scanning every shadow, but the mirror draws my eyes. She's still there. That same gaunt woman, standing directly behind my reflection, her face hidden by stringy, wet hair that clings to her like seaweed. Her dress is soaked and torn, trailing into the floor like it's melting into it. She doesn't move, doesn't blink, but she's closer now. Her skeletal hand rises, slow as death itself, and reaches toward the back of my reflection's neck. My entire body goes rigid. I turn my head just a fraction, unwilling, terrified, knowing what I'll feel. A hand. Cold as stone. Ice against my skin. It brushes the nape of my neck. I jolt like I've been electrocuted and whirl around, flashlight raised, swinging it wildly. But the nursery is empty. Just dust, shadows, and silence. The carousel spins on, playing its broken tune. The mirror, though, it still holds her. She hasn't vanished. She's stepped closer again. I can see her face now, or what's left of it. Skin stretched tight over bone. Hollow eyes, black and endless. Lips curled into something that wants to be a smile but doesn't remember how. I can't stay. I lunge for the nursery door just as it slams shut with a force that rattles the walls. The wind it creates knocks over the rocking horse, which clatters to the ground beside me. I pound on the door, twisting the knob, but it won't budge. Behind me, the lullaby speeds up. The carousel is spinning so fast now its figures blur into a whirl of painted faces and flailing limbs. The music warps, groans, like the mechanism is tearing itself apart. I turn, slowly, breath hitching in my throat. The mirror has changed. It no longer shows the room as it is. It shows her, moving. One step, then another. She's coming, but only in the glass. In reality, the room is still, but the feeling is wrong, tilted, like gravity is pulling toward the mirror. My feet edge back without my permission. Something whispers at my ear. Not a word, just the sound of air forming meaning. The mirror flickers. My reflection is gone. Only hers remains. I scream and throw the flashlight. It hits the mirror and bounces off without a crack. Of course it doesn't break. Of course. I feel the cold again, on my wrist this time. Fingers. I don't turn around. I just run. When the door flies open on its own, I don't question it. I sprint through it, into the hallway beyond. The walls seem to pulse as I pass. Doors slam shut one after another, chasing me, hurting me. Something is awake in this house, and it doesn't want me to leave. The last sound I hear before the hallway twists away into darkness is that lullaby. Still playing, still broken, and still calling me back. I don't remember touching the door handle. It was just open, like it wanted me gone. I bolted from the nursery, stumbling into the hallway, the flashlight stuttering in my grip. I didn't care which direction I went. I just ran. The hallway stretched longer than I remembered, the shadows pressed tighter. With every step I took, a door slammed shut behind me. Bang! 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 One after another like dominoes falling, the sound chasing me. The manor wasn't just haunted, it was alive, and it was driving me forward. My legs burned, but I didn't stop. The echo of my own footsteps was no longer alone. Another rhythm, slower, heavier, matched my pace just a few feet behind. I didn't look. I couldn't. Somewhere above me, the sound of something dragging, slow and metallic, scraped along the ceiling beams. I passed under a chandelier I hadn't seen before, its crystals missing, its arms twisted like gnarled fingers reaching down. Then I heard it. Laughter. Not mocking, not joyful, childlike. High-pitched and wrong, like it came through a broken radio. It echoed from inside the walls themselves, just beneath the wallpaper. I stopped cold, pressing my ear to the paneling. The laughter turned into whispering. A name I couldn't quite catch. Then, a knock, from inside the wall. I stumbled back as a small section of wallpaper bulged outward, pulsing as if something was pushing from within. The plaster beneath cracked with a faint crunch. I turned and ran again, breath hitching, heart wild. When I reached the staircase, I didn't wait. I flew down it, barely touching each step. But when I hit the first floor and turned toward the foyer, my heart sank. The front door, the only exit, was shut. No, worse than shut. It was different. Its wood had darkened, warped. The stained glass reflected nothing. I lunged for the handle, gripping it with both hands, yanking, shaking, pounding. It wouldn't move. The entire door felt fused into the frame. I backed up and threw my shoulder into it. Nothing. Not even a tremble. I wasn't just trapped. I was kept. I turned and stared at the portraits looming above the staircase. Their eyes weren't just watching anymore. They were reacting. Faces twisted subtly in new expressions. Disapproval, amusement, hunger. A gust of cold air coiled around my ankles like smoke. I looked down. The floor tiles were frosting over. Thin veins of ice spread from the threshold of every hallway, converging on where I stood. Then the voices returned. They came from everywhere. All at once. A woman sobbing. Guttural. Broken. A child humming. Whispers slithering over each other in a dozen tongues. Somewhere upstairs, a door creaked open. Slowly, steadily, as if inviting me back. I shook my head, trembling, cornered. The house was playing with me, and I was the only one in the game. I gripped the flashlight tighter and turned slowly back toward the foyer, scanning the space. The chandelier above swayed gently, but there was no breeze, not anymore. Just the cold, the silence, and the sound of someone, or something, coming down the stairs. I didn't hear her come down the stairs. I didn't have to. I felt her, like the pressure drop before a storm, like the breathlessness before a scream. My back was still pressed against the front door, my fists raw from pounding at it, when I saw her in the reflection, not behind me, inside the glass. The door's stained window no longer reflected the room. It mirrored me standing there, and just behind my reflection, half shrouded in the milky glass, was her. The gaunt woman, the one from the mirror upstairs. She stood impossibly still, head bowed slightly, fingers curled like claws at her sides. Her face had emerged from the veil of shadow, skin pale and pulled tight over bone, lips bloodless and split. Her eyes were the worst, wide, unblinking, and empty, glowing softly from within like dying embers. And she was smiling, the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes, that didn't belong to anything human anymore. I spun around. Nothing. Just the foyer. Just me. Then all at once, the house exhaled. Every door in the manor, everyone I'd passed, slammed or feared, burst open at once with a deafening clap. The sound struck like thunder, shaking the walls and blowing my hair back. The cold wind that followed wasn't natural. It carried with it voices, fragmented and overlapping, whispering things I couldn't understand, chanting things I didn't want to. A woman sobbing somewhere deep inside. A child giggling like it was playing a game. Echoes bounced from wall to wall, spinning in circles around me, each one more twisted than the last. I covered my ears, but they crept in through my skull. Above me, the chandelier swayed violently. The chains creaked, and the entire fixture tilted dangerously. I backed away just as it snapped free, crashing to the floor in a shattering explosion of glass and iron. A scream tore from my throat, not from pain, but pure, animal terror. I crouched, shielding my face from the shards, heart pounding, breath ragged. Then silence. The dust settled in shimmering clouds. My flashlight, miraculously still in my grip, cast erratic beams across the destruction. That's when I noticed the temperature had dropped again. My breath was a fog. My fingers stung. And the voices were closer, no longer scattered and spinning. They were right here. I rose slowly, broken glass crunching beneath my shoes. The portraits overhead now hung crooked, some slashed, their painted eyes smeared and blackened. The house groaned, not from wood or wind, but from something deeper, older. I turned back toward the door, desperation welling up, but the reflection in the glass had changed again. It wasn't me anymore. She was there, fully, clearly, undeniably. No longer a ghost in the mirror, but a presence asserting itself into reality. She stood just on the other side of the glass, her milky eyes locked onto mine, her mouth moving with no sound, until a whisper crawled through the foyer air. "Let go." The words curled around my neck like a noose. I turned from the door and saw the entire manor watching me, the very walls leaning inward, and at the top of the staircase, she stood. Not a reflection, not a trick. She was real. And coming down the stairs. I don't know how long I stood frozen, breath caught, heart still, as she descended the staircase, step by step. Her feet didn't touch the wood, but the creak still echoed with each impossible glide. Her form was clearer now, as if the veil between this world and wherever she came from had been worn thin. The moonlight pooled behind her like liquid silver, casting her elongated shadow down the steps. That tattered gown clung to her bones, swaying softly, and her eyes, those hollow, milky pits, wept streaks of thick, black ink down her sunken cheeks. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her finger, long and crooked, rose slowly and pointed. At me. I backed away until my spine pressed hard against the front door, too afraid to scream. My flashlight shook violently in my hand, beams stammering across the foyer. It caught her face, fully. Skin like paper stretched over bone, lips curled into a twisted approximation of a smile. The black tears dripped soundlessly onto the tiles as she floated forward, not walking, drifting, a breath carried on the cold wind now spiraling through the house. I wanted to run, but there was nowhere left to go. Every hallway behind me led deeper into her domain, and the door at my back was as solid as stone. I squeezed the flashlight, raised it in trembling hands, and it flickered. Once, twice. Dead. Darkness swallowed the room. Only my breaths remained, short, ragged, panicked. They echoed in the vast silence of Blackwood Manor, like the last sounds of a life unraveling. I could feel her inches from me, cold radiating from her body, or what was left of it. Then a whisper, so soft it barely stirred the air, brushed past my ear. "Stay with us." It wasn't just her voice. There were others behind it. Dozens, hundreds. Men, women, children, whispering over one another in a haunting chorus, as though the house itself was exhaling its collective soul into me. Suddenly, I felt the floor shift beneath my feet. The air around me changed. The foyer disappeared into nothingness. I was nowhere, weightless and cold, surrounded only by those voices. And then, silence. When the sun rose, it cast pale gold through the broken, stained glass windows. Blackwood Manor stood motionless, draped in dust and shadows. The front door creaked softly on its rusted hinges, swaying open to the breeze. Inside the foyer, shards of crystal from the shattered chandelier glittered like frost. Emma was nowhere to be found. Only her flashlight remained, lying on the cracked tile floor, its weak beam blinking once, twice, and then going out, leaving the manor silent once more.